Welcome or welcome back to Series 2, Episode 16, with my guest today, JJ CLARKE GORDON, from the corporate world to a life of purpose. So hello from me, I'm Beth, your passionate pioneer. Let's repeat my motto together: empowered women, empowered lives. So welcome, JJ.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So let me introduce my guest. Tired of building someone else's dream, JJ traded a high-powered corporate life for a global mission. After years in the fast lane, she discovered her true calling, helping leaders unlock their purpose and create lasting impact. Join us now as we explore how to turn passion into profit and build a legacy that matters. So I imagine, JJ, that like most of my guests, that where I ask, what initially sparked your passion? Did you always know you wanted to pursue this dream, or was it a journey of discovery?
You
And
know, it was a journey of discovery for me.
what a surprise, right? What a surprise. It normally is. So tell us how you tell us about the start of your journey, because you're kind of like we're both really. I'm from Birmingham in England, but you've kind of traveled and dipped your toes into Birmingham, haven't you? And then
Yes.
quickly escaped after 12 years. So, tell me a little bit about your. We're both from the corporate background as well, so tell me a little bit about that and how this journey first started for you.
Right. So my journey I'm from legal background, so legal finance. So I was working in mainly the global law firms, some of the largest law firms in the world, actually, like top 10 largest law firms in the world. And I started off my career journey in Birmingham. So I went to Birmingham. I'm from Nottingham originally. I went to Birmingham to study, and then I just stayed there for 12 years. And while I was there, I was working for a global a law firm. Then I moved from there to London to at that point, it was the third largest law firm in the world. And what I was doing was managing revenue for these global firms. And you know what? I realized I was really good at it, right? I was really good at it. And there was a point when I started this really prestigious job at the third largest law firm. It should have been a dream. And I absolutely hated it. I would like wake up in the morning and cry at the thought, oh, I'm going to go to this office, right? And so then I was looking for another job desperately. And it was at this point, it was 2008. And it was a crisis, right? It was the economic crisis in the UK at that point.
Right, that's right. That was
Yeah, exactly. And there were no jobs, right? And so I was signed up to all the agencies, and they were like, there's nothing on our books, there's nothing on our books for months. And I was desperate. And I then was calling Hayes recruitment agency and all the other recruitment agencies in the UK. And I called one of them, and I was calling them every single day because I was desperate at this point. And they said, look, we don't have any jobs on our books, but we had one strange phone call from Dubai. Do you want to, hear about that? I was like, Dubai, yeah. But I didn't even know where Dubai was at that point. I was very ignorant to Dubai, didn't know anything about it. I was just so desperate to get out of this job that I was in. And it's because the firm was so huge. You're not treated as a human being, as a person, you're treated as a number. And in the corporate world, it can be quite cold, right? And then you get a lot of the sort of drama to go with it. And I just wanted out of that. But I was still thriving in my career. And so I said, let me see the job spec from this Dubai opportunity. And I saw it and I thought, I can do this in my sleep. And she said, well, do you want me to send your CV? I said, yeah, send my CV. The next day, they said, do you want an interview? I said, yeah, let me have an interview. And so I had an interview. Then I had to go to the London office. It was another law firm in Dubai, but the head office is in the UK. So I
right.
had to go to the London office for for a video interview with the team in Dubai on a Sunday because in Dubai, Sunday is a working day, right?
Oh, you're correct. Their weekend is
Right.
Friday and
Yeah.
Saturday, right? Yeah.
So I go to the office on the Sunday, and obviously nobody else is there. The IT guy was there to set it all up. Then he went home, and then I had the interview, but there was an IT tech problem. I didn't know how to fix it. I'm in this office by myself on a Sunday. It cut off, and I was like, "This, I'm never gonna get this job." We'd only been talking for like 20 minutes. Like, I'm never gonna get the job. Anyway, it turns out that I got the job. So 4 weeks later, I was packing my suitcase and moving to Dubai. And I never actually gave it a second thought because I was just happy to escape. So I didn't really think about the fact that I'm leaving the country that I'm born and raised in to go into a completely different country by myself. But I did,
And
and
a
I moved.
completely different culture, right? Completely different
Completely
culture.
different culture, right? Completely different. And so, and I hadn't really given it as much thought as maybe I should have, to be fair. I was just so glad I'm leaving this place, right? And I'm getting to work and do the thing that I'm really good at. And so I go to Dubai, I start this job, and I'm doing really well. And one thing about my career, so I was in this career, the legal finance career, for 16 years. And something I can say quite proudly is if there's not a point between more than 2 years, so between 18 to 2 years, for the whole duration of my career, I was promoted and had pay rises every year. I was really, really good. And because obviously my role was making rich people richer, I was, bringing lots and lots of, eight figures into the company every month and writing strategies on how to make their individual law practices more profitable and all of these things. And I just had this knack for it, and I was really good at it. So I thought this was my purpose. Like I thought, because I'm so good at it, I must be born for this, right? And that's one of the lessons that I want to say that I learned, that just because you are good at something doesn't mean it's your purpose, right? And so I was doing this
Because
work.
many of us are multitasked, aren't we? We're
Yes,
multi-layered. We can
yeah,
be good at many different things, but
yes,
it's what brings us the joy
yeah, absolutely,
is the thing to follow. So you can be good at lots
absolutely.
of things. Could be good cooking,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
hate
yeah,
but
yeah.
hate it, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but we
Absolutely,
be good at many different things. But
definitely.
excellent. I'm really happy
Yeah.
you pointed that out. That's
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm doing this job, and then I was in Dubai for 8 years, and then my mom had some health issues, so I left Dubai after 8 years, came back to the UK, and then I moved to Manchester and was doing the same job in another large, I think it was at this point like one of the top 10 largest law firms in the world, but based in Manchester. So I was still doing this work, and then now, I just want to say there's some self-discovery part that happened in Dubai that I've kind of glossed over.
I was going to touch on that. I was going to say, can we go? Because you skipped over Dubai
I
very
skipped
quickly.
over
How
quickly.
long were you
So,
there, and what did you discover? Tell us the story.
okay, so I was in Dubai for 8 years, and first of all, I loved Dubai. I loved being there. I had a great time. However, I went through also some traumatic times there, my personal life. So while my business life was absolutely thriving, I was responsible for the UK teams. So whilst I'm based in Dubai, I was responsible for the UK teams, for the Middle East teams, and for Asia. And so I would be 1 week I would be in Qatar, 1 week I'll be in Hong Kong, then I'll be in Japan, then I'll be in Abu Dhabi, then I'll be in Jordan, and I was literally traveling business class, nice hotels, and then and I would be training and writing strategies for different partners, equity partners, and finance managers, and all over the globe. And
Nice.
it was really nice. It's pretty cushy. It was a lot of hard work and long, long, long hours. Sometimes because I was working and covering the UK and Dubai as well, Middle East, so it meant I was often working 6-day weeks to cover the
Right.
week,
But
to cover
yeah, the hours are different, right? Especially in
exactly,
Hong
right?
Kong as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes I was working up to 16 hours a day. So I
Gosh.
was working long hours, 6 days a week, and I burnt myself out. But then on top of that, I had some personal challenges because whilst my home life, my work life was thriving, my home life was plummeting.
Right.
I was in a relationship with someone who was abusive.
Right.
the laws in the Middle East. This is something I wish I knew, right? The laws in the Middle East are different,
Yeah.
and you don't have the same level of protection, or
Yeah.
at least you didn't when I was there, right? So I was in a relationship with someone, and this person was in the middle of transitioning from one property to another. And I said, well, stay at my place for a couple of weeks until your new place sorts out. And he moved in and actually moved in. He just refused to leave.
Right.
Now, the law in Dubai says you can't have man and woman living together in one household unless they're married or related. So you can't have these girlfriend boyfriend relationships, and so it caused a lot of problems. And then this person then quit his job and had a lot of financial issues, and then it became a very problematic, and then it became violent. And I was kind of in this trapped situation. And in Dubai, you pay for your rent a year in advance. So, it wasn't as easy as just picking up and moving out or anything like that. It goes through your workplace. So your company pays you a rent check for the whole year, and you pay back the company every single month. So
Right.
you're kind of stuck. And
Right.
so I was in this place. Sorry.
Gosh, that's a very difficult situation to be in, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
JJ, it's as I said, it's a culture, isn't it? It was the culture. There's a completely different culture because it's still very male dominated in the Eastern, in the Arab worlds.
Yeah, and also it relies a lot on who you know. And this
Right.
person I was dating knew a lot of people in the police force. He was very popular, very well-known person. And so it was a very difficult situation. So my home life was volatile, violent, painful, and my work life was thriving and great. And I got to a point when I wanted to finish everything. I wanted to take my life. And I was so desperate because I didn't realize at the time, but I had really low self-esteem, and that was the you could see because of the decisions that I made in terms of relationships. And so I didn't know this at the time, but I was attracting these relationships where people were abusive. So I went from being in a relationship which was emotionally and mentally abusive to going to physically abusive. So I was in a bit of a cycle because of the decisions I was making, what I call downgrading red flags, right? And so when you see a red flag, because you have low self-esteem, low confidence, and you don't want to be alone, you kind of downgrade it from being a red flag to being amber. Then it's a green, it's yellowish, it's okay. And then of course you let your own standards go because you don't want to, be alone. And so I got to this really desperate point in my life. And then at that point I'd also burnt out from my job. I was working 16 hours because I was busy at work, but also it was great because I could get away from home. But then I burnt out, and then I was stuck because I was signed off sick from the
Well, then you're
doctor.
emotionally exhausted. You can't really see the wood for the trees when you're in that depressive state.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult, isn't it, to make any kind of decisions.
Yeah. And it's the worst time to make any sort of life decisions when
Right.
you're in that state, right?
Yeah.
And when you're by yourself as well, because obviously I didn't have my friends and family around me. I'm in a different
Right.
country. And also when you're going through something like that, you're quite embarrassed to tell anybody that I'm in a, relationship like that. And, that wasn't who I thought I was. And so to be in this situation, it was just horrendous and I didn't know how to manage it. And so I was at a really low point, and I literally had planned how to take my own life. And as I was planning it, and I decided I was going to do it, I remember I just sat there and sobbed because I thought, I'm probably not even going to do this right. I'm probably going to just hurt myself and still end up staying alive and stuck with this person and relying on him to take care of me. I don't have any family here, so they can't take care of me. And so I didn't know what to do. And I remember, crying out and saying, why can't anyone love me? Why can't anyone choose me? And I felt this intuition, this voice say, why would anyone love you? Oh, sorry, why would anyone choose you when you've never chosen yourself?
Oh gosh. Right.
And I
Okay.
thought, chosen myself, what
Right.
does that mean, right? And so I kind of thought about it and I said, okay then. So if I can see what it means to choose myself, then I will give myself another chance. And I'll try and choose myself and see what happens. And so from that point on, I went on this personal development spree, right? I was reading all the books, I was watching all the YouTube videos and trying to figure out how can I never get into the situation again? Like, how did I get here? And what did I do wrong that led me here? What decisions had I made that got me in this place? And whilst I'm not blaming myself for the abuse, obviously that's not my fault, but I made decisions and I ignored red flags and I played a, you know, and so I was working on myself and I was still stuck in the situation, but I had to play the long game because I'm waiting for something to change. But in the meantime, I needed to work on myself. I needed to be able to stay alive and get myself back to being okay. Because at that point, mentally, I was no longer okay.
Mhm.
And I could only and I wanted to get back to work as well. And so I started working on myself and I decided I'm going to start asking myself every day, how am I choosing myself? Am I choosing myself? And you know, that was a turning point for me because since then, up till this day, I still ask myself as part of my morning routine, how am I choosing myself today? How are you going to choose yourself, JJ? And you know, I choose situations that allow me to choose myself. And so this was the kind of turning point in the self-discovery. I learned so much about myself. I learned about, you know, the low self-esteem that I had. I learned about how well I was able to mask in the corporate world and be somebody else almost. But when I'm at home, I was a completely different person. And I learned about how not to do the things that I was doing. I learned the mindset that I was coming from. And that led me, you know, even deeper into personal development. And it became something that I was quite obsessed with. And so it was a complete self-discovery on my personal life that changed me. And so then when I left Dubai at this point, and I went to the UK, and I haven't shared how we separated. That's a bit of a long story,
That's
but
okay. That's okay. We don't need, you don't,
yeah.
you can tell us or not tell us, but I think
Oh,
we
it's
understand the
it,
gist of it. If you went on a personal journey, I'm sure you found
yeah,
some type of conclusion in some way to take
yeah.
back to
So
take back
yeah.
control of your life, right?
What let me tell you the short version if I can. So
Yep.
basically, I because I was playing the long game, I was able to get him to build trust with me. And so he realized he thought that we were okay now, that I wasn't going to try and run away from him. And that took months of me sort of doing whatever I could to make him happy. And I had to make a decision to myself that I had to not fight back because I had a responsibility to give myself a chance. And if anything happened to me, my family wouldn't know for I don't know how long. So I said, I'm going to not fight back and I'm going to just do everything I can to make it appear like it's working. And then one day out of the blue, his friend called him from London and said, there's an opportunity in London where you can make loads of money, but you have to come and translate in Arabic. And he said, you know, at first he was like, no, I can't go because he didn't want to leave me because he didn't know if I would disappear. And so I spent a few weeks convincing him, no, you should go, you should go. And then it was Valentine's Day. And I'll never forget, it was Valentine's Day. And he decided he's going to go. And he, you know, bought me some lovely flowers and everything else. And I took him to the airport. And as he walks through the door to the point of no return through the airport, I walk out of that airport and I go straight away to the real estate companies and I say, I need to find somewhere to live. And they said, well, you can't because you've still got 1 month on your tenancy. You have to wait. And I lost it. I said, I can't. You have to help me. You have to help me now. And the tears was rolling down my face. He saw how desperate I was. And do you know, he helped me. he found a place for me, and he allowed me to basically not pay rent for the first month, to allow my rent check for the last property to finish, and then I had to pay it back when from my salary, and he helped me. So literally on that day, I left the airport first thing, early in the morning. I went straight to the real estate office. I found the property, and I started moving myself out using Ubers, um, back and forth, Ubering my stuff from the property, and I moved out. I quit my job, and I moved to 5 minutes around the corner to another job, which I got an opportunity to quite fast. And
The
2 weeks.
universe was working in your favor. You see, the universe was going like, well done, JJ's done it. Now we'll support her, right? Yes.
And so he was going to be in the UK for a month, so I had to work fast. So 2 weeks after, I was already in my new job, and everything was fine in the new property, everything was set up. So I emailed him and said, you might as well stay in the UK with your friends, because there's nowhere for you to stay anymore, where it's over. And of course, he came back to Dubai, but he couldn't find me. He went to my old job every day for weeks. He couldn't find me. He looked for me. He sent me emails, threatening me, emails, messages, phone calls, everything. And I just ignored them all. And I was able to stay in Dubai for another 2 years, which is not a big place. And I never saw him again until the day that I left. I still, to this day, have not seen his face since I took him to the airport. And he still, he still threatened me for a good couple of years, and tried to blackmail me, and tried to find me and threaten my friends, and stalked me on social media till he found out where I was working, and then contacted my boss and told them, to pass them my details. It went on for a long time.
Wow.
So that sort of sociopathic behavior. But I just carried on doing what I'm doing. And so by this point, I was back in the UK, and this is 2 years after the separation, still on this personal development, not sure how it fits into my life, but I'm still interested in it.
But you chose you.
I chose me, right? And I've been choosing myself, and I realized all of this. So part of my journey was, when I was looking back at the decisions I made, how I got here, I started writing everything down. I wrote my story, I wrote everything, all the decisions I made, what got me here, those things about, not being raised with my birth father. I didn't know, I still don't, never met him. Not knowing how to form relationships properly, because I never really had that. There's a lot of things that I learned that I thought, okay, that might have contributed, and how can I deal with that? Anyway, all of this stuff, I started writing things down and backtracking my decisions. Come to the UK, didn't know how any of this was going to matter. And I start living in Manchester now, and I'm going to work at this, large law firm. And one day I wake up and I said, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to work for anybody else anymore. And I had no idea how that meant. And I can remember entertaining a dream of having my own business 10 years ago. And then telling myself, there's the negative self-talk, telling myself, who do you think you are to have your own business? Who do you think you are? The only reason why you're successful is because you're working for this global law firm. That's why you're successful. Don't get too big for your britches. Right. And so I was telling myself that there's no way. What do you know about business? For 10 years. So I never had the courage. And then one day I'm in Manchester, and I decided I don't want to do this. And I went to my job, and I was just so out of line. It was out of line with me. I just didn't feel like I was in the right place. That's when I realized I must be in the right place because I'm so good at it. And that's when I thought, right, just because I'm good at it doesn't mean it's my purpose, doesn't mean this is my calling, doesn't mean that this is my passion. And I said, I don't want to make rich people richer anymore. I don't want to make rich people richer. I want to help ordinary everyday
enrich my life.
Enrich my life and life of other people, but not this. And so I remember at that point, I decided to do a coaching certificate. Now, at this point, I still didn't realize I could even be a coach as a profession. I was just doing it to be a better manager, because I was managing 3 teams. So I thought, oh, this might be a good, development for me to be a better manager. And someone made a sly remark to me and says, oh, you're going to become a coach now and leave. And I thought, no, what? And then I thought, can you do that? Can you hold on? Can you do that?
Point. I never thought of that.
Right. And so there's a few other things happening, right? So because, I'm in the corporate world, and as a Black woman working in the legal finance industry, there were some issues there as well. People that don't look like me, So there's that going on in the background. There's a lot of prejudice, a lot of, a negativity happening. And I just thought, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do it anymore. And so I have this process that I teach to my clients now, which is around the 3 steps to leave your corporate job. And I started putting this strategy into action. And the step 1 was was basically recognizing what I wanted. It's called the identification stage. So it's identifying, first of all, I don't want to be here. Second of all, what do I want? And starting to work towards what I do want. And then I thought, let me see if I can be a coach. And I registered the business and I started offering part-time coaching. So I was a career coach when I first started.
Right.
And then I was doing this career coaching, and people coming to me they were always struggling with confidence. And so I realized, hold on a second. So they're not struggling with their career, they're struggling with confidence. So I got certified as a confidence coach. So by that point, I was certified as a life coach, a career coach, and a confidence coach. So I'm coaching part-time, then COVID happens. And now when I was coaching, I was doing face-to-face, in-person coaching. So when COVID happened, I'm like, how on earth am I supposed to run a business now? Because I'd never thought about social media. And so I had to pivot my business and all of that stuff. And now when I'm realizing I'm building my actual business and focusing on my brand and who I want to be in this space, I realized that choosing myself was the pivotal point for me. And when I helped my clients to choose themselves and help them understand what that means, then that was like a way for a catalyst for them to change their life as well. And so at first, the thought of choosing yourself seemed quite selfish, and people felt a bit weird about it. So I'd explain to them, when you choose yourself, it's almost like saying, fill your own cup first so you can help other people, right? So I'm saying, when you choose yourself, it's not about being selfish. It's about filling yourself up. And what I learned was about the difference between thinking from a mindset of scarcity and a mindset of abundance, right? And so I would say, when people always say you got to fill your own cup. And so I said, no, actually, before, fill your own from your cup, give from your saucer. Because as soon as so this is the British side, right? The saucer and the cup.
I like that. I really like that. The teacup and the saucer, right?
Yeah.
I'm all about that. I totally resonate with the word selfish. I think it's got very bad connotations in the world. But it's actually, and when you say selfish, it's just, that you don't care about anybody else, but that's not right. It's self-care, isn't it? And choosing you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that, the saucer and the cup. Yeah.
And this is because when you take from your cup, even if you take a little bit from your cup, that means you are no longer full. And so you are now in depletion. But when you keep pouring into yourself until you have an overflow that goes into your saucer, you are able to give out of abundance. So when you choose yourself and you pour into yourself and you continually overflow yourself, then you have spillage. You can give from a place of abundance. And it's a completely different energy when you are giving from abundance than when you're giving from depletion, right? Absolutely. And so that's what I started explaining and letting people know, that when you're pouring into yourself, you're actually helping yourself to be able to help others. You're equipping yourself better to be able to go and help others, to have the energy to do things for other people, because now you're so full that that's what you want to do. You want to share. And so I started sharing my story and focusing a lot more on the life coaching and the mindset, and talking about choosing yourself and confidence building. And it was transformative. And that's kind of where I sort of landed. And so I kind of have an amalgamation of all the different areas of my life where I have the life coaching. I also have, work with leaders who are wanting to use their story, their lived experience, to help other people. And so a lot of other people are trying to segue out of corporate or have something additional to corporate, monetize their expertise and their skills and their passions, of course, and lead them into another era of leadership that they didn't realize that they had. And so it's not just about growing your professional background, because you saw what my story, I was thriving in my professional background, but I was dying in my
Yeah.
personal. And when you create that split in your life, then you're never going to be able to feel whole or feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
You can't even focus on your passion when you're so split. So when you can focus on yourself, recognize you're one person, and this is me being authentic, that if I choose myself, it allows me to give in my professional and my personal. I can better me in all areas of my life. And then I decided, so if I can choose me, what would that look like? And I realized the corporate world isn't what I would choose for myself. It served a purpose, and I learned so much. I learned so much that allowed me to now help other people start businesses. Because as much as I told myself I didn't know anything about business, I forgot I'd been making people rich for the past 16 years. Right? And so I was like, hold on a second, of course I must know something. I can make people rich. I've been doing it for all this time on the global scale. And so I started, building my own practice and having lots of success from that. And I decided I'm going to help somebody else. Well, mainly, most of my life coaching clients would say, I want to start a business. Can you help me? And I'm like, I mean, not really, need a business coach. And they would say, yeah, but you've done it. Can you tell me what you've done? And so I started saying, well, I did this and I did this. And then people were getting success from that. And I thought, maybe there's something in
Right.
there, right? And so then I started helping people with that. And so I do help people with careers. I help people with their corporate careers. I help people start businesses. Basically, I help them to choose themselves and then go and take action. And I equip them with the tools that help them mentally in their life, their identity, which is the underpinning of everything. And then also, the passion. And so the thing that I always say is, I want to help you unlock your purpose, your passion, and the profits so that you can go out there with confidence and be who you are born to be. And just rather than being who we think we should be or the expectations of the world and fitting into a tiny box and so that's kind of like my story. And I know that was really funny because I feel like I might have answered more than one question.
Yeah, you did. And it's great to hear your story. And in fact, as your story was unfolding, I was like, that sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. That sounds
Really?
familiar. Yeah. So yeah, the story of leaving the corporate world and then going into, business.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I did. I mean, we're both life coaches and we both like to empower. um you find your own way. We're just there to empower you. We'll give you the tools and the steps, and this is you just take the next aligned action. um
Yeah.
but it's the same. I thought what I should do, I've got all this business. I've been in business for years. I should do the business, but then I realized why I got out of it in the first place, because I didn't enjoy it. I was very good at it, but I was thinking, oh, maybe this is my purpose. And no, this is not Then there's the confidence. I was a clarity and confidence coach. And then, and I realized it's the confidence, but it's the self-confidence that you were talking about, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
And I was still trying to. So mine was a journey of self-discovery too. It was where I tried this. It's like, no, that's not for me. I tried this. That's still not quite right.
Yeah.
And so it's just been an unfolding of
Yeah.
everything. And now, as a life coach, a bit like you, I do the mindset. I empower women to help themselves. I give them the self-confidence. I give them some really easy exercises where they go, oh yeah, identifying who am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're not your parents, you're not your teachers, you're
Absolutely.
not your grandparents, you're not society expectations, you're not any of those. You are you. So what
Any
is
of
it that you want? And most people never sit down and actually identify what they want
exactly.
and
And this
who
is such
they are.
an important thing. Like we don't ask ourselves these questions.
Right.
And so that's been something, that has been really helpful to people, just to
Yeah.
help them to ask those questions. And so, that's I
Great
was trying
starting
to,
point, right, JJ? It's a great starting point because
yeah,
that's the foundations of everything. It's like your values, your beliefs are not everybody else's, they're yours. And when you identify yourself and who you are and what you want, then you realize, oh, yes, I value this. I believe this. I don't believe that, really. I believe this is what I believe. And you've got to have the self-confidence and the courage to speak it.
yeah. And I realized, that there were a lot of things that I kind of inherited from my mom, from my family, from my teachers, from school,
Mhm.
from my friends. And I thought, I don't want to own this. I don't want this quality, or I really love this quality. But then,
Right.
unless you actually ask yourself those questions and recognize that you're living somebody else's life, right?
Yeah.
You're living somebody else's life. And so that was a massive discovery for me, to be able to go back and peel off these layers and step into my own identity, and also to recognize that it's also okay to not know what you want. It's okay to not know straight away, and then gives you opportunity to try different things and to step out of that comfort
Exactly.
zone,
Yeah,
right?
try different
Yeah,
things. This is the
yeah,
journey of discovery, isn't it?
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and like you said, I mean, there's some things that you do want to take, and there's some things that you don't.
Yeah,
Some things that are good, some things that aren't.
yeah,
But it's unwrapping the layers. It's like, taking the coats off. That's
absolutely.
my
Yeah.
parents, that's my teachers, that's my friends, that's the girl that bullied me at school. That's the right. There's all these layers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
It's
and
so
it's
much.
uncomfortable. And often it's uncomfortable for other people when we choose ourselves first as well, because they're like, oh, you said no.
Yes.
You've
Oh my gosh, right?
got
And it's just
boundaries
about
now,
putting
right?
that
You
out.
said, and they get really a little bit, like, it's uncomfortable for them as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. We're putting them out now by being ourselves. We're putting them out.
Yeah,
But that's a really powerful thing to realize, because sometimes you can't take everybody on your journey with you, and that's another part of being courageous enough to make these sort of decisions, to choose yourself. It requires courage to choose yourself and to set boundaries
yeah,
and to make these decisions that's going to help you, so that you can help other people, but you've got to help you first. And if you never make these decisions, then you are not able to be effective and sustainably effective in other roles of your life,
right.
because you're lacking. And so this is it's so important. It really is. And it's been for me one of the pinnacles of my business. And so when the beginning is when you choose yourself and you go through the identification stage and you realize all those things. The next step that I teach is the transition stage, because this is where now your mind is transitioning from being an employee or a consumer to be exploring different parts of your mind and stepping out of your comfort zone and trying different things, and having more confidence and seeing what confidence looks like on you, saying no when you want to say no instead of people pleasing, and you sort of repositioning yourself in your own life, and at the same time you reposition yourself in your job. And so one of the things that I had to do was reposition myself in the minds of other people. So I've done the work on myself, and I'm working. I can see where my potential is lying, but I'm still in my full-time job. So I had to reposition myself in the minds of others, and that meant if I wanted to be a coach and a consultant outside of the workplace, I needed them to see me in a different way. And so I began. Now I was managing teams, but what I began to do was act like a consultant, right? Act like it, do it, act like a consultant in my employment, right?
Embody it, right? And totally
Body,
embody it.
absolutely. And so I started doing that. And so rather than, as a consultant, you don't do the work, you tell people what they need to do and they go and do the work, right? So I started doing that and trying that on for size. How would that look for me? How do I feel with that? How does it sit when I say these things? And it was working. And so I was delegating. I had some deputies in my teams, and I was passing on so much stuff. And I was operating as a consultant in my employment. And then I go through to the next stage. And actually, before I go to the next stage, I started taking on clients when I was in that stage. So I'm seeing myself already as a full-time coach, even though I'm not. I'm seeing myself as a consultant and behaving in that way. And I'm started to share content to talk about the skill sets that I've got and how I can help people and how I've been helping people in my part-time coaching practice. And I received an email from a global law firm. Now, this was hilarious to me because I'm still working my full-time job at a global law firm. And a global law firm emailed me and said, we'd love you to do a webinar for us during the lunchtime. Of course, I'm not going to turn them down. This is like my first corporate gig. But I'm working full time as an employee. And so I thought, how can I do this? And I thought, well, I'm just going to use my lunch break. And so in my lunch break at my job, I was delivering a webinar for a global organization, global law firm, and doing a webinar for 6 of their international officers. And I was still, and for me, that gave me so much confidence in myself. It allowed me to see I'm actually doing this. I can do this. And they paid me, and it was a boost. And it made me realize, yeah, I'm repositioning myself and it's working. And then after a period of time, I resigned. I wrote an exit strategy, I resigned. And then and I made an offer to them because they were still wanted my support. And so I said, okay, well, I can still support you as a consultant. But obviously the repositioning that I've been doing helped them to see me as a consultant. Because if they only saw me as an employee, they would never have said yes.
Right.
And because they started seeing me in that way, when I told them I was leaving to go and do consulting and coaching, they were like, "Oh, we totally see that. I can definitely see that." And I was thinking, "Wow." Right. And then I stayed and I helped them out with something as a consultant, and it worked. And so when I left my full-time job, I was already operating at a higher level than if I had left with the employee mindset. And I'd already began thinking differently whilst I was still employed. So the 3 steps were the identification, the repositioning, and then the transition. And the transition is when you're leaving, and the transition of your mindset from thinking as a consumer to thinking as a creator. And that's what the 3-step process that I help people work through. And which has been really successful, been really great. But it was my own journey, the things that I'd gone through. And that's one of the things that I guess has helped me is documenting the steps that I take. Even when it comes to my personal development, when I started writing everything down about my life and my story, I then later on, as I became a life coach, I looked at my story, which was like loads of journals, and I pulled steps out of it, and I made that into a framework, a personalized framework, right? And so now I've got a framework for my life coaching, I've got frameworks for my business mentoring, and that's something that I do now. I create frameworks and put together strategies for people. And yeah, my life has completely changed. And I just want to touch on something that I haven't spoken on yet, which is one of the things that I wanted to do when it comes to choosing myself was I never wanted to have to work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week again, right? I wanted to have flexibility and freedom. And so I wanted to know, how can I do that? Create freedom for myself and flexibility for my life. I want, the one thing I really, really love is traveling. So I wanted to be able to travel and to be able to be in a pool in Bali and just me and my laptop and still be able to make money and serve clients from whichever country I'm in, right?
Right.
And so
It's the freedom driver, isn't it? It's a freedom driver. I've got the same.
exactly. And so I worked on this, and then that's what I managed to do for myself, to change my business and to allow me to have those freedoms. And so last year, I gave up my apartment in Manchester to travel and to become location independent. And it's literally one of the best things I've done. It was one of the scariest, one of them. But yeah, it was a lot. And I remember the first place that I went to, well, I started my location independence last year before I'd given up my apartment. And then I realized that I'm definitely going to do this seriously. And so that's when I left. I came back to the UK, gave up my apartment, and then went back onto the road. And so I spent a lot of time in LA, in Los Angeles, and then also in West Africa, in Ghana. And so I'm traveling a lot, and I'm going to different places and working wherever I am, serving wherever I am, having seminars wherever I am. And it's just been a type of, this is my passion. This is literally like, my life is literally what I wanted it to look like. And there have been some ups and downs in terms of, stability, not, everything you're doing as an entrepreneur, you're doing for the first time, right? And
Right.
not knowing, and having to get comfortable with the unknown all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm balancing how that works, and I'm growing in that area. And then one of the big things that happened to me recently was I come back from LA after being there for 3 months, having the time of my life. And I come back to the UK for a short visit to see my family, and then I'm off again to Ghana. And while I'm here, a week after I get here, my mum got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer.
Right. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. It's been devastating. But one of the things which was my saving grace was this business that I created for myself has allowed me to have the freedom to stay in the UK if I need to, and to still serve clients, and to be flexible, and to still have the life that I want, and to be able to be with my family.
Yeah.
And so now I'm spending time in the hospital. My mom's in the hospital at the moment and has been for the last couple of weeks. So I've been staying overnight at the hospital with my mom, working on my laptop from there when I need to, and my mom's asleep, going to, where I am now, the co-working office where I hire when I'm in the UK, and just working from this co-working space. And it's just been having that flexibility to be able to do that is everything. And I would love to just say to anybody, if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, and you have a passion to create a different life for yourself, follow it, because you don't necessarily know how it will serve you in the beginning, but you guarantee will see how it will serve you later on down the line.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I had no idea. Now, I thought flexibility and freedom for my business was just to allow me to travel. But actually, this flexibility and freedoms allowed me to be there for my mom at the most important time in her life.
Right.
If I was still working my corporate job, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And
Right.
so, the freedom and the flexibility, which I thought would for something else, it completely served me in where I am now.
Yeah.
And so, follow that passion, follow that passion.
Yeah.
It's so important.
If
So,
if you'd have told me, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, when I left corporate, it was 8 years ago now. Yeah, 8 years ago, that I would be using my voice to tell stories, to be the facilitator of other women's stories, and doing what I'm doing right now, I wouldn't have believed you. It's taken me a long time to find my voice. It's been a journey of discovery for me. And again, choosing me. I'm sure people look at you, JJ, and they go, "Oh, you're so lucky."
yeah. And they have no idea.
And I say, and I live in Italy on a mountain, and they say, "Oh, you're so lucky." No, I
Right?
chose this. I choose me. I chose my life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I lived in the Caribbean for 15 years. Oh, you're so lucky. No, I chose that. I
Chose
got
it.
uncomfortable and I went into the unknown because
Yeah,
I chose to
yeah.
live my best life.
Yeah.
And it
And
was
it's not always easy either.
other
So it
people.
requires you to be really courageous. It requires you
Courageous.
to
You
be
have to
so
get,
brave.
yeah, you've got to put your big boy pants on, really. Really have got to put your big boy pants on,
You
right?
do. Yeah, you do. Oh
And
my
stop
God.
hiding. It
Yeah.
really, and choose you. I just love that's
You
your
can't hide, can you?
main
You
thing.
can't hide in this role as the a coach, you're a leader, and you can't hide because you can't even be effective in your role when you do that. So it forces you to have to really show up in a different way. And you grow so much when you decide to step into that, don't you just grow?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was thinking about that, and thinking, I've grown more, I grow more in 3 months than I would in 3 years in my past life, right? And the growth is just exponential.
Yeah.
Um, because the decisions that we make are so big now, whereas before, we were making completely different levels of decisions, that were impacting us at different levels of our life. But now we are in this place where you're not in this corporate space anymore. You don't have a guaranteed, no matter what happens, you've got an income coming in. You're relying on yourself. You're not earning money, you're making money. And so you have a different level of responsibility for yourself. And so when you show up, you got that in mind. But at the same time, for me, for example, and for most of us, I think, the passion, it's not just always about ourselves and our own passion. It's also about how we can use our stories to help others. So this podcast, I'm certain that it inspires so many women who are listening and thinking, oh my God, the story is just like mine. And she's gone and done that, and she's gone and done, and it will inspire.
What it's all about. We're showing them, we're inspiring them and empowering them and saying, look, it is possible. We are living proof it is possible. It's not easy. Right. And you've got to choose you. And you do have to have that growth mindset, which you can learn. You do everything in steps, right? You do everything in baby steps. You don't have to go woof, because you won't be able to do that anyway.
Absolutely.
You've got to do it in small chunks. It's easier that way.
Yeah. But that's what I learned as well, that I've got this little formula that I have, which is small steps equals success. And you just keep taking small steps. Don't try and jump and take leaps. Small steps equal success, and so this is it. Just take small steps. Just do one thing. Just, take an action. Create a momentum. So small steps create a momentum, and that momentum can lead you forward, And one thing I'd also say is really get to know your why you're doing it, because that will really keep you on track. And if it's just, I'm doing it for the money, sometimes things can get so hard, you're like, money's not even worth it, I'm just go back to my job.
It's not about the money, trust me, it's not about the we were both very well paid when we were in corporate, very well paid. We gave it up. Those that are, we gave it up. It's not all about the money, it's follow your joy. Joseph Campbell had it right when he said follow your bliss. I know it sounds trite, and it's, follow your passion, follow your bliss, blah, blah. No, it's exactly right. Follow what lights you up. Follow what puts the sparkle back in your eyes. Follow the joy. And if you can only do that part-time, if you're going to do that on a weekend, if you're going to do that in the evenings, do it. Follow your joy. Follow that passion. Okay. So I've got 2 questions I ask all my guests, JJ. Okay. What's one piece of advice? Maybe you've answered this already, but anyway, let's just repeat it. What's one piece of advice that you wish you'd gotten earlier on your journey?
Okay, it would definitely be about choosing myself. If I knew that I could do that, like I could give myself permission to choose myself, that would have changed a lot of things. And so, I think it would be to choose myself, and that I was worth it, and I didn't have to ignore red flags and wait for someone to choose me. I could choose myself and make decisions that light me up, and treat myself like my own best friend. That's one piece of advice I wish I had, and I wish I fully understood. That choosing myself isn't selfish. Actually, it's self-care, and it's selfless. Because when you're choosing yourself, you're doing so you can help others, and you can give to others more fully. And so it's choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's self-care, and it's selfless. So I wish I did that before.
And what do you hope your story will inspire in other women who are listening today?
I hope my story will inspire anybody who feels trapped, anybody who feels stuck, whatever it is, stuck in a job, stuck in a relationship, stuck in anything, to know that you can get out. And sometimes you might have to play the long game, but have a plan. Don't lose hope, and focus on, figure out what your why is. Get to know yourself. Use this time to learn yourself, to forgive yourself, to honor yourself, to help yourself. Use this time to focus on you, to choose yourself, and then figure out what it is you want. Ask yourself the questions. What do you want? What do you want to be known for? Who do you want to be in this life, right? And make decisions that's going to get you closer to the answers of those questions. So I hope that whoever's listening to this is going to take those steps.
Well, a million thanks to JJ for joining today and giving us a snippet of her courageous story. Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it empowering and inspiring. And would you like to be a Passionista and join my Passionista Society? Maybe you'd like to be a guest on the show or work with myself or JJ. You'll find all the contact details on Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube. And until next time, this is Beth and JJ signing off.
Thank you so much, everyone.